In this lesson, we're going to quickly look over some of the other advanced options in the Views user interface. Right now, I'm on the Recipes page display. I'm going to click on the little contextual link here and choose Edit View. On the right, I have this advanced section which I can open up, and we've been looking at contextual filters and relationships. There are a lot of other options in here to look at. It is important to note that you will only want to use these advanced options when you feel comfortable with them. You should test everything out and see what it does before putting it on a production environment. Most Views displays will not need these settings changed. The first one that we're going to look at is Exposed Form. There is an option here to put the exposed form in a block. Let's talk about what this means. I'm going to head back to the site in another tab here, and we'll look at the Recipes view. We have an exposed form up here at the top that allows us to filter the results in the view. This is being displayed at the top of our view. But what if I want to place it in a block off to the side? Perhaps I want to move this over above external resources in the right sidebar. And perhaps I actually want this block to be available to show on any page on the site. I can use the exposed form in block to pull the exposed filters out of the view and place them in a block and then show them anywhere I want to on the site. Let's go ahead and do this. We'll go back to our view, and under exposed form in block, we'll change no to yes and apply that. I'm going to click on Advanced here, and we're also going to look quickly at Exposed Form Style. So we're going to leave this as basic, and then now I'm going to click on Settings here. And rather than Apply, I'm going to change this to Filter Results. Or I could change it to Show Recipes. And maybe I'll go one step further and just add a cute little raw quote there. I'll undo Allow people to choose the sort order, and then apply this. Click on Advanced to expand that again. And so now we have exposed form in block. Let's go ahead and save this view. And you'll notice now that the form no longer displays at the top of the recipes view. It's gone. So what we want to do is go to Blocks Configuration, find the block, and place it in the right sidebar. And we're actually going to place it site-wide in the right sidebar so that it's available on any page. So now we're going to head over to the block layout. And then under Place Blocks, we need to find the block that has our exposed form in it. So we would be tempted to look under List Views, but this is not actually in this particular listing. We need to scroll all the way to the bottom and find a block under the Views section, which now appears. And here it says Exposed Form Recipes Page 1. So this is the exposed form for the page 1 display from the recipes view. I'm going to go ahead and click on this to add it. We can override the title to Find Recipes. We want this to show on every page on the site, so we'll go ahead and leave Pages Not Restricted. And then we need to place this in a region, so we're going to place it into the second sidebar, and then we'll click Save Block. I'm going to scroll down here, so we have it in our second sidebar, along with external resources, upcoming events. I'm going to move this up to the top here because I want this to be the first thing available in the second sidebar site-wide. And then we'll go ahead and save it. Now let's head back to the recipes view, reload the page, and you'll see that the display is right here, including Show Recipes, which is different from what we had as the default for the filters, which was Apply. If I go to another page, such as Why Tasty Cakes, this block is still here, and I can change it to another option, say egg-free, Show Recipes. It's going to take me to the recipes view, only showing egg-free recipes. This is an incredibly handy little option that you can use for your site to make it very easy for your users to find the content that they need. Let's take a look at more of the advanced options available on your views display. The first one here is machine name, which is page 1. The machine name for your view display is how Drupal identifies this display. Just as each entity has its own ID, Each view display, each block, and each configuration element on your site is going to have a machine name. This is also used in theming to apply IDs that can then have CSS rules applied to them. And it can be used for theming hooks in more advanced Drupal development. This option, Use Ajax, is currently set to No. Enabling this option adds overhead to your view and page, meaning that more resources are required to display it to your user. This is because a lot of Ajax code is then loaded onto the page when you have this enabled. What it allows, however, is for content to change dynamically when the user provides their own feedback, such as paging through the view or selecting a filter, so that you do not need to reload the entire page when the user makes that click. Query settings is also one that you may need to use at some point in your Drupal site building life. Let's click on Settings next to Query Settings. The one that I want to point out here is Distinct. In some instances, your view may end up showing multiple versions of a record. Distinct will help to eliminate this and to show only one version of each record. Because this particular option adds overhead to your display, only enable it if needed. Until you feel comfortable with views, don't use any of the other settings under Query Options. Caching is also a really useful setting in your views display. This setting will enable you to deliver cached versions of the view display to users, meaning that rather than running the database query, you can show the user what is, in effect, an already loaded version of the page. This can really speed up performance. Enabling this, however, means that the display may not always show the newest content as quickly. The final advanced setting that I want to show you is CSS Class. You can use this to add a class or classes to your view display, which will then help you with styling when you're working on your theme. Note that this is a class, not an ID, and so it can be used on multiple displays in a variety of ways. I just want to reiterate that for the most part, you're not going to use most of the advanced settings in your view display unless you discover that you need them. I also want to reiterate that you should test everything that you do in a development environment, either on your local system or somewhere that's not available to the public before putting it onto production.